Hey, everybody. My name is Christian Joy. I want to thank you for joining my podcast today, for listening in and listening to what I have to say. I do not consider myself a therapist or a doctor, an expert by any means. I have not written a book. I am nobody's preacher. I'm just thinking out loud. I thought that it might be a good idea for me to share those thoughts with anybody who might like to listen. Even if you don't agree, I do welcome the feedback and, hope that we can start some good, healthy conversations and really help to create some dialogue, especially around the topics that are most sensitive and less visited by anyone. I want to open up a dialogue, open up a safe place for dialogue to take place and to share some thoughts. So, this episode, I want to talk about anxiety. I think sadly, we've all dealt with anxiety in some way, form, or another. What I would like to say first is that if you're somebody who's dealing with anxiety, you are not alone. What really prompted me to do this topic first was in the past couple of months, I've had a lot of friends to come to me and talk to me about the anxiety that they're feeling. And, they might wake up out of their sleep in the middle of the night and heart pounding out of chest, might be out of breath, might start sweating, can barely breathe. You might feel like somebody set King Kong on your chest and making it feel like it's gonna sink in. And I really felt for those friends of mine. First of all, I felt grateful that they trusted me enough to come to me and talk to me about it and get my input on it. And I really hope that I was able to help them in our conversation. And I think one of the things that I got out of listening to them share their stories with me was a lot of people really think that, or may really feel like they're going through this alone. So I feel like maybe we should talk about anxiety more so people know that this is not something that you're going through alone. And you have people who want to be there for you, who are most likely going through it with you. So don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like you have to deal with it alone. Get with somebody, get a confidant, somebody you trust, ask them to listen to you or even to take you to get help if you need help. But I think that's the most important thing that I want to emphasize on this podcast is letting people know you're not alone. If you want some additional resources, you can email me at the email address on the bottom of the screen, and I'll be happy to get you connected with some help groups that are really good about supporting people with anxiety. So if you need that kind of help, definitely let me know. So in tonight's episode, I want to talk a little bit about the unsung sources of anxiety. And this is not talking about, the anxiety that people have that stems from things they don't have control over. So this particular episode is not necessarily for that. I'm talking about that anxiety that we very much can prevent. Like a lot of our anxiety can be prevented just by us guarding our eye gates. If you went to Christian Faith Center Academy, you know what I mean by eye gates. I'll explain that in another podcast. But just by guarding our eye gates, a lot of times we start getting anxiety just off of things that we allow ourselves to see, that we allow ourselves to take in through the gates of our eyes. For example, I found that when I don't have the Facebook app on my phone, like installed on my phone and on my home screen, then I don't instinctively go to that app and start scrolling through statuses all day long. And then, as a result, then I'm not staying up all night thinking about what somebody else might have said on, their status or, thinking about some comment somebody posted on my status because I've chosen to guard what comes in my eye gate. And Facebook is just an example. Okay. Don't be too sensitive here. Honestly and truly, that really worked for me. That really helped me in realizing that by controlling what I look at, by controlling what I see, I am actually in control over the way that I feel. I would just scroll for hours and hours at a time, wake up in the middle of the night, and mad at a particular person. And I'm like, well, why am I mad at this person? I don't talk to this person, or I don't know this person, or why am I feeling some type of way about somebody that I'm not even close with? And then I remember, oh, it's because I saw somebody else write a status about this person. And now I'm upset because I allowed myself to get upset. I allowed myself to take in that information through my eyes. It may seem like a small thing to you, um, but it was a big step for me. It was a big step in finding and maintaining my peace when I could control the intake of information through my eye gates. So that's the first one. The second unsung source of anxiety is the S word. What is the S word? The S word is the biggest curse word there is. What is the S word? The S word is should. I say often, stop shoulding all over yourself, or stop shoulding all over me. Should, SHOULD. What do I mean by that? When we allow people's expectations of us to control the way that we act, that's what I mean by the S word, and by it being a curse word, because we are living based on somebody else's should of our lives. And that's not fair to us. We should be able to make decisions about our life and make goals for our life and make mistakes in our life without someone telling us, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And, it's not necessarily fair to us. Now, I'm not saying that if you see that somebody's doing something wrong, you shouldn't stop them and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying is don't allow people to impose their expectations onto you, their expectations of how your life ought to be onto you. Your expectations are your expectations. Their expectations of your life are probably the expectations they had on their own lives that they may not necessarily have lived up to. And you shouldn't feel badly about that, because that's not your fault. The S word, it played a big part in my life, especially, so I had my daughter when I was 18. I had a lot of people have input on whether or not I should go to college locally so that I could live home with my parents and have my parents to take care of my daughter, or if my decision to move to Greenville and go to East Carolina University and raise my daughter on my own, if that was the right decision or not. And it was tough to hear the people who had those opinions about that. On the receiving end of that, it was a very difficult place to be in, because I was doing my very best to make the best decision for my child and myself. So don't allow people to should all over you. And then finally, I want to talk about the ear gates, taking information in through your ears. Back in church when we were little in vacation Bible school or wherever, there was this song that was like, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see, oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. And I think we laughed and joked about that song as kids so much, and didn't necessarily take into consideration what that song was trying to tell us. We very much need to be careful what we choose to see and what we choose to hear. And by what we choose to hear, I mean not only what we choose to watch on TV, or what music we choose to listen to on the radio, or what podcast to listen to, or what album to listen to. That's not necessarily what I mean. But like, who are you talking to on a daily basis? Are you talking to people who are pouring into your spirit, people who are contributing to your strength mentally and physically and emotionally? Or are you talking to somebody who's basically a leech, who just really wants to take all of your energy and take all of your information and not necessarily give you any kind of strength to help you to be the better person that you can be? Do you have people like that talking to your ears, people who are just constantly complaining, people who are constantly telling you that what you're doing is not right, people who are just constant naysayers and always just wanting to talk about everybody else and how everybody else could do right in their life, but not realizing that they got a whole house at home that they need to fix themselves? That's what I mean about who do you have in your ear. Unfortunately, a lot of big decisions are made based on influences from people in their lives. There are marriages that have broken up based on the information and the influence that people were getting from their friends. Had nothing to do with their actual spouse, but because you allow your friends to, give you all this influence on your life, what you should do for your life, what looks better to your eye gates for your life. And they're pouring all that information into your ear gates. And it's not healthy. So I would challenge everybody here, anybody who's listening, and if you happen to share this, those people who might be listening. But I challenge everybody to really consider what you're allowing in your ear gates, what you're allowing in your eye gates. Like, who are you allowing to should in your life? There are some good shoulds that might happen, maybe. But who are you allowing to should in your life? But a lot of anxiety we can prevent. And a lot of it stems from how we feel about ourselves. It stems from, do I love myself? Have I taken time to care for myself? Am I satisfied with who I am? Do I like me? Like, it's easy to love yourself, but do you like yourself? Can you stay home for a couple of days by yourself doing nothing but enjoying what you work so hard for? I can. I look forward to it. But I know people who can't, because ultimately and deep down inside, they're just not happy with who they are with themselves. So I really challenge you to, have that self-reflection. I try to do it myself as often as possible. Self-care is the best care and is one of the common denominators for a lot of the solutions to a lot of life's problems. It all stems back to self-care, how you view yourself, how do you love yourself. One of those things that helped me overcome that or even just get through it. A lot of times we're not even concerned about getting over something. We absolutely just want to get through it and survive it. That thing that really helped me is meditation. Not necessarily in the traditional sense of, having the right gestures and the right hand movements and the right body language and Indian style. Not necessarily that. If that's what you prefer to do, then that's completely fine. But really, by meditation, I mean just taking some time in your day to do nothing, taking some time in your day to get alone, consider your inner being, and just clearing out your thoughts and breathing and calming your mind. Believe it or not, something that simple for 5 minutes a few times a day, even if it starts out just once a day, but something that simple can make a huge difference if you're serious about it. And if you're taking that time to really find your center and to really have a moment of self reflection, did I accomplish the things that I set out to accomplish today? Is there anything I could have done better today? Did I do anything that might have inflicted my insecurities onto someone else, causing them anxiety today? I would take that time a few times a day if you can. Just sit and have that moment of self-reflection. It really does go a long way. And it really is a huge help for me. Well, I think that is my time. Um, Thanks for listening. I hope you like and share this podcast. And we'll be back soon, maybe in a week or so, and talk about another topic and hopefully start some good, productive, and healthy dialogue around topics that really matter and topics that are really impacting our generation today. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a preacher, I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru. I'm just Christian Joy, and I'm just thinking out loud. Take care.